Hello, hello, hello. I am super excited. Welcome back to the Eva Show, the show around pleasure, leadership, and embodiment and magic. And today I have another fantastic guest. Is a man that, oh God, he's like so dear to my heart. He's like my personal friend, but also we've been working together for such a long time. And I can definitely say this man has changed my life. And I'm so, so grateful that I made peace at some point with the masculine because now I have amazing friends like that. And I obviously want to share this amazing human being with you all. I have my dear friend, Andrew Rowe here. And he, like, first of all, Andrew, thank you, and welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time, and I can't wait like to share you with the world and to my community and what we also, yeah, want to talk about. So, Andrew is actually not only like a very good friend of mine, and he's actually a master of spotting limiting beliefs. Sometimes it's so uncomfortable because he sees them like instantly, and you're like, oh, no, don't say that. But literally, he can see that within seconds after meeting you. So this is brilliant. He's like a sassy psychic. And oh yeah, like such an amazing human being. But maybe before I keep talking so much, maybe introduce yourself in your own words, darling.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I guess I specialize in helping people shift their whole personality so they can shift their personal reality, right? So really being able to create a new identity of who they are, by shifting their limiting beliefs, by shifting anything that's keeping them blocked. Because my true belief, and I know it's yours as well, is that we're limitless and anything is possible, but we just have to hold on to the frequency of our desire in order to make it a reality. So yeah, that's what I do. I absolutely love it. I work with like all different types of people, gay men, straight women, gay women, non-binary. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. We're all human at the end of the day. And we're all here to create magic and do amazing things. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And I don't take myself seriously. I swear a lot. And I also really love you. I think you're a fantastic person, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Oh, so nice, so nice. And I think this is also what we're going to talk about today, obviously, how your personal reality can be changed by changing your personality. Because obviously this is, and I think we talked about this many times, but many people are literally out there thinking things are happening to them, right? And I mean, we have been at that stage as well. And I think it's also, I think that concept of understanding, hmm, I'm actually creating this, it's a game changer and it takes a lot of vulnerability and a lot of self-honesty. So, but at the other side of it, it's actually really fantastic. So, what's your take on that? I mean, you already talked already about the limiting beliefs, but what's your take on?
Yeah, I think you touched upon it well there. It's like we've all been through that moment where we felt like, life is just happening to us. And I remember, just as you were saying it, I was brought straight back to like when I was, a young adult and bad things were happening in my life. And, you immediately you'll latch on to whatever belief systems you grew up with. So I grew up with this kind of religious programming. So immediately I had this belief system like I was being punished or something bad was happening because I was doing something bad or like it was karma or whatever it was. And it's a very kind of disempowering in place to be because you are literally giving away your power to a frequency that you can't actually see and you don't really know what you're not taking responsibility. And it can be quite a scary place as well because it makes you feel, sad, it makes you feel depressed, it makes you feel angry, it makes you feel irritated. And so we've all been there. And the listeners who are listening now, you probably felt that feeling of hopelessness or like I just can't seem to stop this stuff from happening. And I'm basically just I always use this analogy. I'm just basically like a pair of underwear stuck in a dryer, a tumble dryer, and I'm just like banging around, and I don't really have any control over my life. And I think when we start to really tap into our reality creation, our understanding that actually, hang on, these things that are happening through me, and they're happening because of me, cause and effect, not effect and cause. That's why this stuff is going on. And, we don't need to beat ourselves up. It's not about punishing ourselves. It's not about any of that kind of stuff, but it's about taking radical responsibility for everything in our life.
Yeah, and I think this is also the scary part, no? Because I mean, I mean, obviously, I also work with a lot of women, and there's like, yeah, but it's my partner, it's not having a partner, it's the job, it's the economy, it's whatever, right? I mean, we all know that. So what do you say to somebody who comes in that kind of place and is
Mm.
like, oh, like maybe blaming the partner, right? Like it's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's not me, it's the partner, it's the kids, it's the everything. Classical scenario, right? Like life is kind of happening to me. It's the I have to go to work, I have my children, whatever. Like, like different kind of scenarios that people are going through. And, probably there are listeners out there right now saying like, oh, hold on, like it's not my fault. And I think it's really also not about being in fault, like going into blaming or something. But what would you say to somebody like, like in that kind of
Yeah.
situation?
Listen, I'd say like hold the compassion for yourself because it's normal that you are going to be latching onto externalities to explain your world because that's how we've been taught. We've been taught to believe that we have no control and, everything is just happening because life just happens. So totally natural, be compassionate with yourself, but then start to bring in a little bit of curiosity. Bring in the question, what if I was creating this? What if my energy and my frequency were determining my reality? You don't have to go straight into the belief that it's true because that can be dysregulating for your nervous system, but play with the question, what if? And so then if it is the case, like, what if, the reason my partner is so distant and avoidant of me is because I'm so attached to them. What if that was the truth? And what would life look like if I started to be a little bit less attached, less interested? How would that start to shift and change things, And when we start to take it from a place of curiosity rather than from fundamental beliefs, we allow ourselves some space to start to explore and play around in that energy. And then what you're going to start to notice is, oh, interesting. When I choose to be less reactive or when I choose to be less attached to my partner, suddenly my partner is more interested in me. Interesting. Was that my partner that changed, or was it me that changed? And you're just going to start to play this kind of little game with all the different things, and you're going to start to notice how your reality is just mirroring how you're feeling in every moment. So I would probably suggest, if someone's new to this, just start baby steps. Don't overwhelm your nervous system and just, play in the energy of curiosity. We were all children once upon a time. Children are very curious. They ask lots and lots of questions. That's the energy we want to come back to, not come back to this thing of like, we already know everything and well, everything is already decided and it's all anchored in and there's nothing we can change.
Yeah, and I think I love that analogy because I think in that kind of stage, everything was like, and everything that didn't really matter for such a long time. And I think this is a capacity that we obviously have, or maybe not lost, but that we have to redevelop as adults again, being really in that state of, okay, this happened 5 minutes ago, because I think children are really a fantastic example. Like, something have happened, they may have had a fight or something, and 5 minutes later they're best friends again. They are not like long in that state because they are constantly living only in the now. And I
Mm.
think this is definitely like a capacity that we as adults have to, reorganize. But when we come also to the state of personality, right? And I think this is something that I find also, and I think that was a huge game changer for myself, and I also know for you, and also for the people that we work with. It's also understanding like, how do you see yourself? And I think that moment of, and I mean, I'm going to use the word victim in that case, because in that case, when we are in that energy of like, okay, life is happening to me, it's my partner's fault, it's whatever, whoever, it's like happening, my boss, whatever, or parents. I mean, in my case, my mother was my favorite punching ball for everything, and my favorite excuse for everything not going well in my life. And yes, even though there was the trauma, but also I became very comfortable in that situation. I became really, and it's nearly painful now to admit it, but I also became very comfortable in that victim role, right?
Mm.
And obviously I didn't want to acknowledge that. I never like, I mean, you know me for a couple of years now as well. And probably I would have never came and said like, oh, I like to play the victim, you know. But I think the moment I realized that, everything changed, and I know that is true for so many people, because I think this is really what the personality part comes in. And yeah, maybe you share
Mm.
your take on that.
Yeah, with the victim energy, I think we have victim has a bit of a bad rap because it's, oh, I don't want to be seen as a victim. I don't want to be seen as a victim. But in actuality, I would say 99% of the population is a victim sometime in their life. So let's not demonize the word victim. Let's not make ourselves feel like we're less than because we're a victim. But let's start taking, responsibility and acknowledgement that actually, yes, if you feel like woe is me, if you feel like the world is, beating you up, if you feel like your parents are the reason that you don't have the love or the success that you're looking for, if you're constantly looking for external reasons for the reason your life is the way it is, you're falling into victim energy because you're not taking personal responsibility for your life. And it's not nothing to be blamed for. It's a natural thing that we tend to fall into because of our limiting beliefs. And a lot of people who end up having, victim energy within them, they're doing is they're looking for love, right? It's either looking for a sense of belonging, validation, love, acceptance, all these kind of things, right? So being the victim is a very natural aspect of our human existence. However, it's very much the opposite of who we are. Because if we go to really the understanding of reality creation, that we are all just source, God, whatever you want to call it, experiencing itself, then it's not possible to be a victim. The victim is the aspects of us, the shadow aspects, the discarded parts of us, like the wounded inner child that's just looking for some love and some affection and some care. And the reason we feel so like disconnected or negative or whatever it may be is just because we're not in congruence with our higher self. We're not vibrating at the frequency that we should be vibrating at. So, if to first and foremost to start to identify or notice that you're being a victim is you need to just really have self-awareness. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
be like, when something doesn't go my way, how do I react? Do I react like, oh, this is so unfair? Of course, this always happens to me. Like nothing ever works out for me, or do I react in like more of a heroic kind of way of being like, this is the hero's journey. This is something I need to overcome. This is just a challenge. This is just an obstacle. I'm strong and I can do this. And if you're in the camp, which I said at the first point, then you're going to be in some energy of victim. And so then it's just being like, okay, cool. I'm choosing to react to this because of my set of conditions, because of how I chose to perceive the world, because of, my 3D experience, which I then defined to be my reality. That's the case, but I have the choice and the option to change. But as you said so beautifully, when we are stuck in victim energy, sometimes it's hard for us to change because it becomes comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
because it's the only way that we can receive the validation or the being able to be seen or receiving love because we don't know how to receive it in any other way.
Yeah, and I feel also what is important with this is also we are also kind of always looking backwards. Like there's a huge tendency of looking backwards, right? And I think Joe Dispenza mentions this, like the commitment to the past. And I think the real switch happens when you are starting to commit to your future and understand the only way to create your future is to make different choices, think different thoughts, and take different actions in the here and now, because otherwise the future will be always like a repetition of the past. And I
Mm.
think this was a huge game changer for me, like with that point of, okay, this is changing now. And also this commitment of, okay, cool, I actually want something else and I want a
Yeah.
very different lifestyle.
Look,
And
anger's gonna get you nowhere. Like the thing is a lot of our problems will stem from the energy of anger, resentment, because it's just going to call in more things like that. It's going to call in more frequencies like that. And usually frequencies like that show themselves in challenges and obstacles and reasons to be like, to get reasons to be more angry, right? And so we feel or think because we've been hard done by, because we've experienced some kind of whatever it may be, that anger is our protection. Anger is a source of power. Anger is what defines us. But in actuality, the anger is what's holding us back in every moment of every day. And so if we have anger towards a situation, it actually is just showing us that there is a disharmony with this connection, and that there's something that needs to heal, something needs to change. And so, as we were saying, it's a decision to live in the future of like who you want to become or who you are in the future self, but also realizing that some of the things that you may have experienced are a little bit sticky and may take a little bit of time. And that's why, someone like Eva or I exist, where we can help you shift those parts of you, of your psyche, which are a little bit more sticky and difficult to shift. Because through it's natural, right? Our whole experience is just subconsciously programmed. And so those beliefs and the way you are, your personality in this present moment now, is just a subject of all of your conditioning from your past, which is just repetition that you've been repeating over and over and over again. So it's just about really understanding that any emotion that doesn't feel good is just a signal to say, oh, you're a little bit off course. Let's just put you back on course.
Yeah, and I think also like really putting also more love in there, right? Because I think sometimes we are really, I think in particular when it comes to emotions, like a lot of people obviously come from an upbringing where they didn't experience unconditional love. Like I don't think anybody has experienced that, right? And I think this is really the journey, like bringing into these aspects, these shadow aspects or these, wounded aspect, actually more love in rather than more, strictness or something, because this is what a lot of people actually did have experienced. And it's like this, yeah, bringing more love in. So let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about that. Okay, like cool. Now now I have this understanding. I can kind of accept that because I feel what I hear from my clients often is like, I know I want to have something else, but they don't know the fear of the unknown, right? So how do we flip the switch? How do we go into that energy of like, okay, cool, I, I'm taking responsibility. I'm honest with myself. I'm doing my work. I'm shifting my beliefs. I'm doing the healing work, and I'm creating my life. Like, what do you say? It's like this magic stick, that magic switch to, go over and go to the other side and being also comfortable with that unknown.
I think, first and foremost, as we were talking about just previously, it really is just being able to be like, okay, cool. If everything is just a reflection of my internal world and my external is not reflecting what I want to be experiencing right now, there is something going on within my frequency that's creating this. Basta. I'm not going to debate it. I'm not going to try and understand why. It just is the case because we live in a vibrational universe. If that's the case, then I have the power to change it. So then it's like super empowering. It's like, okay, I'm going to take responsibility that absolutely everything that's happened in my life, even if it feels like it was outside of my control, it was a choice. I chose to experience it in the way that I chose to experience it. Therefore, it was my responsibility. So when you are really in that energy of just like, right, this is it, you then have to be super, super clear of like, well, what is the version of me that I want to become? Because so many people are like, I don't actually know what I want. It's not that you don't know what you want. You're too afraid to ask for it. You think that it's not humble to want more, or, you're not sure that is this what I actually want, or is this what my parents wanted, or is this what like society wants for me? So when you become super crystal clear on like what you want and what you desire, then you've just launched your intention, your desires into the universe. It's like, this is the version of who I want to be, right? This is who I'm going to become. And so when you have that as the intention, as your North Star to follow, then amazing things will start to to shift, because you'd be like, okay, cool, this is who I want, this is what I want, and I'm going to make it happen. And I need to now look at what is going on within me that is not in alignment to this.
Yeah, I totally love it. I love it. And I think the clarity part is so important. And I think the lack of clarity is exactly what you say. I think the lack of clarity is an illusion. It's two things. It's either I'm afraid to ask, because, different religious concepts or societal concepts or whatever. And then the other part, not really feeling worthy of it, that to actually receive it, or even the fear. And I think this is particularly for women. I hear it so often, like this: what if I get everything that I want? Can I really have all of it? Can I really have that most amazing lifestyle and that I want? Like, can I really ask for all of that?
I think with women, especially, men are a lot easier to ask for what they want because they have been born into society that supports their every need, right? If we look at the patriarchal system from, God knows, 1700s, 1600s to now, even, it has always been really very male dominated, especially in the last 100 years from the 1900s to now, massively male dominated, and women were meant to be at home and they need to look after children, and they didn't have the right to vote in some countries, and then men were just like, the 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 dons, right? And so men are a lot less fearful to ask for what they want because it's been naturally ingrained in their psyche, like you ask and you get. Whereas women, it's like, oh, I have to ask someone else in order to get something, right? I have to ask my husband for an allowance in order to, go on holiday or what it may be. And there's still men and relationships that are functioning from that kind of dysfunctional perspective. And so women have to now just be like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm allowed to have whatever I want. I'm calling in whatever I want. Like, I am the operant power. I am deserving. It is not selfish of me. If you're a mother, don't feel like it's selfish, for wanting more. You're not here to just bloody sacrifice your life to your children. That's a complete illusion and bullshit.
Nice, nice. And it's so true. There's even a book called Women Don't Ask. So there's a whole study done of that in business context as well. So, I mean, if somebody's interested, definitely a good read around that. But also, I think it really comes back to that point of like understanding that, yes, there are studies around that. Yes, there are reasons for that. And then still deciding, okay, now that I know all of this, cool, I'm changing this, I'm really now going after this. And I mean, I would suggest go step by step, like don't overwhelm your life and nervous system. So start with that where you feel like this is easiest for you to accept that you can change that, and then go through the layers where it's a little bit more challenging for you to accept it. But you get the evidence like, oh, this has changed. And this is like also the evidence of manifestations, because also when it comes to manifestation, a lot of people are saying, oh, manifestation doesn't work for me. And I'm like, what do you mean a manifestation doesn't work for you? Gravity doesn't work for you? Air doesn't work for you? Like, it's not about like it's either working for you or not. It's like everything is a manifestation, right? And I think this is a really huge thing that people have to understand, like the good, the bad, whatever, like whatever you want to label it, everything is a manifestation. And when we talk about the concept of manifestation, and I think this is a really important distinction to make, is like taking control of what you're actually manifesting and getting the direction in that what you're actually desiring, rather than being in that state of like, oh, manifestation doesn't happen to me, because it does. Like gravity works, if you believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. Is unfortunately, social media has made the word manifestation into something that's really inaccessible, and this idea that like, oh, I'm manifesting money, or I'm manifesting, love, or I'm manifesting more clients or whatever. And it's like, yes, that's an aspect of it, but in actuality, manifestation is everything. Like you look at like the cup that you had, in your hand, that white cup, that was in someone's mind, it was imagination, and then it was turned into manifestation into the material. Absolutely everything. The tiles behind you, that's a manifestation. Someone had that image in their head, and they put it into reality and it became the material. Manifestation is not some woo-woo buzzword. We need to let go of that. Manifestation is reality. Manifestation is life. Your life is a manifestation. You were manifested into life. You know, you were birthed into life. It was a manifestation. You were nothing. You were literally just like a sperm and an egg, and then boom, look at you. You're now a human being, right? So let go of this warped perception of manifestation being some sort of like magic woo-woo nonsense when it's not. It is literally the state of the universal laws. It is the law of vibration, of frequency. There's nothing else. Everything is that. And I know some people find that hard to kind of comprehend. And I think that's those type of people are the people who are afraid. They're afraid of how much power they actually have. They're afraid to actually admit that, oh shoot, my life is the way it is because of me. Because, you know, maybe they take on board this aspect of them, which is the inner child, which feels like they're being blamed for everything all the time. And they're like, I don't want to be blamed for this. I don't want to blame myself. And it's like, no, honey, we're not blaming anyone. We're actually just taking our power back by just admitting that everything is a reflection of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think also I think also this the way I like to explain it is also like, because when I say like people are like, no, I'm not spiritual, I don't believe in this. And I'm like, again, you don't have to believe in gravity, it still works. It's not even spiritual, it is physics. It's understanding physics. It's like quantum physics, that's all it is. Like you have to understand that. It's nothing woo-woo. Like we make it like, you know, society made it woo-woo, but it's not. It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to understand quantum physics. That's all it is. But maybe we don't go into quantum physics now because I think this could be a whole lecture. But let's go to that personality aspects. Okay. So, you know, okay, I'm coming back to that state of like, cool, I'm understanding this. I'm understood like victim, not a role anymore I desire to play. I'm now going into playing a different role. I like to see it like as a movie, like, you know, okay, I'm an actress on that stage. This role was fun to play, but now I'm deciding to play a different role. And the different role is like, I want this in my reality, right? So this is the movie I'm watching. Maybe before I was watching a psycho thriller, and now I'm like creating the most amazing adventurous lifestyle, right? So let's talk about the how. Like, I think because I feel people will be like, okay, it sounds very interesting. And I come to this point that I can accept that. But how? The magic how question.
Mm. You know, the how comes from a series of different aspects that we have to put into place, right? So we have to understand a few realities, which is one of the things that we were talking about, which is imagination is your seat of creation, and your 3D experience isn't actually real. That's a little bit difficult to understand, but like the 3D reality is literally just the screen of what's going on within yourself, right? And so I love the analogy you used as the actress or the actor, you know, and being like, actually, I was in a psycho thriller and it was shit. You know, I was in a drama and everything. And it's like, actually, why don't I just be the actor or actress that's in a comedy or in a romantic comedy or in a fantasy or whatever it may be, and start to embody that version? Because when we start to reject the 3D and we start to realize our imagination is our seat of our creation, and we just say, actually, everything like the image I said of the cup, if I can imagine it, I can see it in my hand, right? We can see it with tangible things, but we find it difficult to connect it when it comes to our desires that seem almost intangible, but they are tangible because at some point they become into the material world. So once you've done that and you've been able to reject the 3D and you let go of some of your kind of trigger points and things like that, you know, if it's around weight, you want to get rid of your scales. If it's around, you know, calling in partner again that you once were with, you want to get rid of their messages and stuff like that. You don't want to bring in anything that's going to dysregulate your nervous system. The next really big stage is the how, is what you were kind of saying. Obviously, we always want to look at what resistance we have and the limiting beliefs. But then the next stage is like embodying the version of our future self, right? Becoming that actor. Like, so the actress who is in that movie that she absolutely loves and she's a fucking, you know, amazing, whatever, star of it, you know, how does she think? How does she feel? How does she act? and you really start to picture that. And a good way of doing that is, you just close your eyes and you want to picture your future self that has it all, see how they're dressed, and then start to imagine that you're dressed like them. Use their clothing, even buy that clothing if you can afford it, or if you can, what it is. Start wearing that clothing to embody that version of who they are, and start to play the role until it becomes like, act as if, right? Play the role until it becomes your truth. And sometimes it's not going to feel like, it's going to feel incongruent. And sometimes you're going to want to go back and you want to ask yourself, well, that version of me that already has everything, how would they choose to react to this situation? How would they want to, speak to their husband, who is maybe not being the kindest, most supportive person? That is the frequency that you want to be coming from, because that's the energy that is already there in the quantum field and that you're just bringing into this reality.
And I think also the different beliefs, right? Because I think when it's a different way of thinking, obviously, because if you before were in that blaming energy, whatever, then obviously, and I think what also helped me a lot, and I think this I want to give also to people listening, it's really like also this look also for evidence, even in that moment when you don't see it for yourself yet. And even if it's a little bit difficult for you to see yourself in that future embodiment of yourself, but there is always somebody who has that, right? Like if you believe, for example, let's start with something simple, like you want a different job, for example, right? And you feel like, okay, I don't like my job, and maybe you want to change job, or maybe you want to start an own business, right? Whatever it is, there's obviously evidence that somebody else is in a job, that they are happy, have a good employee, that they like going to the work, they have a nice team, whatever, if this is important to you, or somebody else has transitioned successfully from a corporate career or whatever, or like even not a corporate career, but transition to being an entrepreneur and having a successful business, right? So look for these things outside, because in your current circle, you may not find these people, which is normal, right? And look for these things. So then you already create for your mind and for your subconscious already this like, okay, cool. So you start to believe that people like this exist, that kind of lifestyle that you want exists. So you find already outside the evidence. So this is the first step. And I find this is a step that is really easy for a lot of people. And then also, start talking with those people, because if you want to change your job and everybody in your current company hates, like the company environment, if you keep talking with them, you will kind of start being in that, you will continue being in that energy, like, oh, everything is shit. But talk to people who, started an own business, like whatever it is. I mean, you can take that example for everything. And then from that space, you get obviously the next steps, because and then it's easier. And then you also find, because how our mind and our subconscious also works is that once they understand that this is possible for somebody else, and this is for many people in the first step easier to accept. And then the next step is that you accept that this is also possible for you. And because you start talking with those people, you find the evidences, then the next kind of micro steps are being shown to you, and you get, and not even shown, like you get information from those people, right? I remember, for example, when I transitioned from corporate, and like when I quit my corporate career and I went traveling, I mean, I didn't go full on 2 years traveling from one day to the other. I had like a 5-week holidays in between, and I met a lot of solo travelers, and they were doing all the things that I was doing. And then, like a whole world opened up for me, and they gave me so many information. I was like, wow, I didn't know all of this existed. I came back to my corporate job, and I'm like, I felt like a zebra in the office all of a sudden, even though this was my reality. So, and then it took, the next steps were following out of that. So I feel I think I really want to give that to the audience. So like start with something that is really important for you, where you feel like, yes, this will improve my life quality a lot. And find the evidence in the first step, also in the outside, because there's always somebody, and I can promise you that has that kind of lifestyle that you want. Like if you want like a loving relationship, obviously don't hang out with your friends that are talking shit about their partners. Hang out with people that have a loving relationship, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said some, around finding evidence. You want to be also sure that you program your mind to find evidence of people that found it easy, or that was, that it was effortless for them, or, because you'll find evidence of people who maybe left their job to start a business, but then they might say, oh, it's actually really hard work, or it's really challenging, or, it's going to take you a long time. No, that's their reality. That's what happened for them, but that's not the collective, that's not the truth, right? So be like, when you set the intention, be like, yeah, I want to be shown, business owners, or I want to be shown relationships where it's been really effortless and easy to attract your partner, and, and come from that frequency, and then you'll start to meet those right people, because the intention that we have behind something is so important, and that you have to be really specific, because the universe works with specifics, right? So if you're really specific, then you'll receive it. And then just remember that you'll want to change your belief systems around what is possible for you before you do that. Because if you believe that it's going to have to take a long time, or if you believe that, it's hard work, then you're naturally going to attract people who are going to mirror that back to you, because again, we live in a vibrational based world. But if you change your belief system to like, wow, God, it's so easy to set up your business, or it's so easy to, to find love or whatever, then you're going to naturally attract people who are going to mirror that back at you, who are just going to confirm what you already know about it, which is going to affirm it even deeper into your subconscious mind, which will then mean that it'll be a lot easier for you to call that in, because it will be a belief system that's actually set in truth.
And I think it comes back to the personality then, because then you also start seeing yourself as somebody who can make this happen, who can make that change, who finds it easy, who has, the energy for that, who has the power, who has the right connection. And, even if you don't have these connections yet, but you always meet the right people. So for example, for me, when I travel, I have this deep core belief that everybody I meet wants like the highest and best for me. And it's like, I always said that, and it's so true. And I have traveled to every continent, and nothing has ever happened to me, right? So quite the opposite. Everybody is always like super. So you have to believe that. You have to kind of really create that personality for yourself, that you are this kind of person, right? And I mean, it takes a little bit of practice, but start with the things that you find the most easiest to believe now, and then obviously work to the deeper layers. And then obviously this is also where, the support system comes in, via coaches, via networks and everything, to really also reprogram the subconscious on, the more icky parts. But you can start now. You don't, like, also, I think this is really something, it's really that you start identifying it. And I think I want to give this one last example. I remember like this, because I think my travel story is always super fun. I remember when I also quit I have already quit my corporate career, and then I decided I want to go traveling. And I remember I was like, I didn't know how much money I would really need. And, because I already resigned, I was like, okay, I need to find another source of income to finance all my traveling now. And I was kind of doing some research online, and I found a blog, and they said like, okay, this would be a good amount of budget for that kind of destination and everything. And then there was also this sentence that said those people who wrote that blog were saving 2 years for that. And I remember I quit in March, and I wanted to travel in October. And I was like, okay, fine. And it was so interesting, because I didn't understand that much, all of this that I understand now, but I understood back then already. I was like, okay, I don't have 2 years now. I will not go back to be an employee. I want to travel in October. So there needs to be another way. And I will make that money till I go travel. And it happened like that. So I think there's also, you have to be really in that and I think this I really want to give, like, even when people tell you something, take what you want and then still make a decision for you. Okay, I can make it in 6 months instead of 2 years. Like, this is a choice that you make. And this is also something that you believe about yourself, that you can make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I think this is a thing we always have to take what people say with a pinch of salt, because they're just mirroring back our own fears, our own worries, our own, so that's why, like, when you're on this manifesting journey of, creating your reality, be very mindful of who you share your dreams and hopes and aspirations with, because they will, if they're not in the same vibrational frequency or mindset as you are, they will mirror back your fears and your worries, and that will destabilize you, and that will make you feel, well, not it will, it is possible that it will make you feel destabilized, or it's going to bring up some resistant energy. So we don't want that. So that's why, like, when you're on this journey, just keep it to yourself, find a buddy who is also into this kind of stuff, and support each other, but like don't start telling everyone, because there will be naysayers, and that's going to affect your frequency.
Especially when you're also quite new to all of this. And I think make it really practical. If you want to be vegan, talk with vegans. Don't talk with your, like, for me, for example, my father, like, I mean, we are from Poland. He loves meat. I will never talk with my father about vegan, like, so know that, like, we be practical about these things, right? Like, don't talk to, like, your single girlfriend about finding the love of your life. Like, she will also say, like, dating sucks. Talk with, happy people who are in loving relationships. Like, as you said, like, talk to people who are running a successful business. Whatever you want, be really practical about that. And don't talk with everybody. Like, for example, even now when I talk to some people out of my former career, they still say 7 years later, I wish. Yeah, okay, cool. So keep staying in that energy of I wish. And that's okay. But talk with the people who have done what you want to do, because that's where you get the information from. Be really practical around that, because in the end, as we said before, manifestation is really practical. It's not even woo-woo.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's the German in you, which is the practicality. I love it.
Yeah, that's the German part of me. But it's true, right? I mean, it's logic, right? I mean, if I want to lose weight, I will not talk to somebody who's overweight, no? It's
No, very
like,
true.
so yeah, well, so Andrew, you obviously also created something really magical. You just created this amazing academy. I'm part of it as well. So share it with the audience how they
Yeah.
can enter this amazing academy. And yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed like the conversation that we've had, if you're like, oh, I really want to get stuck into my manifestation, I really want to like create my dream reality. I'm ready. I've created an academy, which is basically an amazing library of videos where I teach you my 6-step bulletproof method to manifest your dream desires. We've had members who've manifested soulmates and members who have manifested business clients from it, more money, whatever you want, and it works, and it's an amazing way of jumping into manifesting. And then it also has loads of other videos around like exercises, tips, nervous system regulation, EFT tapping, and then also like emotional rampages I created that will like rewire your subconscious mind. I mean, like, for what you get compared to other things, it's pretty incredible. And you get a live call with me once a month where I do a group healing, and you have access to an amazing community of people where we can interact with each other and you can ask me questions. And so that's only £33 per month. So I made it as accessible as possible because I want everyone to experience the fact that they are the, operant power, that they can create their own reality. So if that's something you're interested in, please just, you can find me on Instagram at Andrew Rowe 111, or on TikTok as well, which is the same, Andrew Rowe 111, Rowe ROWE. Or you can go on my website, which is www.andrew-rowe.co.uk, and you can find more information there. And yeah, just really excited to, if anyone wants to join my community and or follow me on Instagram, I create funny videos and I create a lot of entertaining educational stuff as well. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And everything will be also in the show notes. So if you were like, oh, I didn't catch all of that, all the links are in the show notes as well. And I can definitely say it's amazing. And it's really also teaching you the how, because I know one part is understanding it, like logically understanding it, but it takes practice. It's a muscle that needs to be developed. It's different practices. It's the same thing. Like, you may understand how swimming works, but at some point you have to go into water and swim. And this is basically what Andrew is supporting you with manifesting, and how much fun manifestation is. And he put like a lot of love yeah, soul into it. I can definitely confirm that. So yeah, it's incredible. And he makes it obviously super affordable that everybody gets to experience a juicy life. So so I'm definitely can, yeah,
Thank
highly
you.
recommend this. And yeah, thank you so much, darling, for your time. It's been, as always, a super pleasure to chat with you. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your love with the world. And yeah, thank you so much for being guest on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show.